My name is Doug Wozniak, and this is Senior Moments. Today we're going to be speaking with Wendy Jones, who is the president founder of Next Steps for Seniors. Glad to have you here.
Glad to be here. Thank you for asking me, Doug.
Oh, my pleasure, my pleasure. I know a little bit about your business, but why don't you fill in the audience as to what exactly you do?
So Next Steps for Seniors is similar to what the name says. My goal is to really help people plan for what the next steps are as they age. So the company was established 3 years ago. It's located in downtown Rochester, but we cover all of Southeast Michigan. And where we come into the picture specifically is when somebody goes into the hospital or rehabilitation and they know they can't go back home. So that's when they call us, Next Steps for Seniors. And our team is designed to help plan for where they can go, either independent living, assisted living, residential group homes. There's a lot of options. And people think that they're limited, and they're really not. You can go home with home care, but they need to know what those options are, and that's what we do. We help them with those options.
You know, one of the things that I always find out from my clients is that their idea of what they're supposed to do is some vague notion out there. They don't have a solid idea of what the difference is between an assisted living home or a foster home or a nursing home, or the difference between private pay and Medicaid.
Right.
And one of the things I always caution them about is the Friday discharge from the hospital.
Yes.
Okay, you want to elaborate on that?
Well, I think it's important whenever anyone goes into the hospital, first of all, one critical thing to be aware of is it's important to be admitted into a hospital. A lot of times nowadays, within the last couple years, they're going in and they're keeping them in observation. And when an elderly person is in observation and not physically admitted, Medicare doesn't kick in for a rehab stay. So that's the first thing I want to mention, because I think it's important for them to know that. It is important to have Medicare cover a rehab stay, because any elderly person that's been in the hospital for 3 days or 5 days, they're weak. They've been in a hospital bed. They need to go to rehab to gain their strength. But hospitals don't have a lot of staff on the weekends. Their goal is to get somebody in the hospital and out of the hospital as efficiently as they can. So Fridays is a big day for the hospitals, because in their minds, the more people that they can move out, a lot of people come in on the weekends. So they can get them out on Friday and kind of do a rotation.
Yeah, I think the continuity of care goes away on the weekends.
It really does.
You know, you were talking about the hospital staff, but then the rehab staff is usually a weekend staff. And then if they're transitioning into the rehab for at least a couple of weeks, the staff they get on Monday is a different staff.
Correct.
Friday discharge, forget it. I think people ought to realize that they can say no to that.
Exactly. They have the ability, and you can always do an appeal, and you can say, we don't agree with the decision, and as a family, we'd like to appeal that process. And you have a lot of rights as a family in any situation. Even in rehab, if they say it's time for you to go, you can appeal to Medicare. And I think families aren't aware of that. But one thing you brought up I wanted to mention, because I think it's important, is I think the listeners need to know that everything is not a nursing home. A lot of our older people believe that if they're going to any type of institution, they think in their mind, I'm going to a nursing home. Well, we have a lot more options than nursing homes nowadays. So I think it's important to just, re-emphasize, just because you need to go somewhere else after the hospital does not mean you're going to a nursing home.
Right, and that Medicare differential, it means the difference between someone else paying for it or you paying for all that care out of your pocket. Right. So it could mean tens of thousands of dollars. One of the other things that I tell my clients is to make sure that if Medicare is not going to be covering some of your care, that they get a notice of non-coverage, and that terminates Medicare, but they're supposed to let you know. But I will tell you, probably 75 to 85% of my clients never get that notice.
Wow.
And so they have no idea
when
coverage stopped. Yeah.
Right, and that's why they need people like you, because you're just not aware. And I think there's experts out there that understand what to do, and that's exactly what you do, and it's great. One of the things that I really have a passion about, Doug, is having the older children, the 45 to 65-year-old children, really pay attention to mom and dad. And when I say that, here's an example. I get calls into my office all the time, and people are saying, I'm not sure if my mom and dad are safe in their home anymore. That's one question I get a lot. You know, and then I ask the questions like this. I say, well, are they cooking right now? What are they making for dinner? Are they driving? You know, these are the questions you're asking to these adult children. And many of them go, well, they're driving, but I'm not sure that they should be driving. And I'm like,
right.
then get in the car and go for a ride. You know, get in the car and drive with them to church and to grocery shopping, and you need to know that they're safe on the road. Because that's a hard thing. That's a very independent thing. People want to be able to drive as long as they can. And I get that. I'm going to be the same way. You're going to be the
right.
same way. We don't want our license to be taken away. But if you are in jeopardy of harming somebody else, and if the adult child is even thinking, I'm not sure mom and dad should be driving, then guess what? It probably means they shouldn't
Right,
be driving.
You know, and that's just the first step when you begin to look at it, and then the considerations of moving mom or dad out of the house into some type of care. And I find that a lot of children, the 45 to 65-year-old child, has made what I call the promise that I'll never move you out of this house. And it's a promise they can't keep, but they think they can keep it.
Right.
And it's unfortunate because I think it delays what needs to get done for their parent.
Exactly.
And I think a lot of kids are surprised when they move their parents into a facility and it's more like a hotel than it is a nursing home.
Oh, it's a resort.
Yeah.
It really is. I call it a cruise ship.
Oh,
I
yeah,
do.
right.
Independent living, retirement living, when you're independent and you're really doing your own thing, that is like a cruise ship. They have your meals made, they clean your apartment, they've got social hour, they've got all these fun activities. It's fun. And especially if you have lost a spouse and you're in your 80s or 70s and you're lonely, it is the next best thing because you have people surrounding you. So I really encourage, especially if there's a spouse that has passed recently, to consider an independent living community.
And it's not that you're shuffling off the responsibility.
No.
You have to stay involved with that care. Otherwise, you don't know what type of care your parent's going to be getting.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So when you are contacted by a family and you start the interview as to what they do, the facilities you look at, do you take them on tours
So this is how the process works. So we get a call into the office and they give us their basic information. Our goal is to really understand the situation. You know, we need to know where everybody lives. If there's 5 kids, are they all in Michigan? What cities they live in? That's all the kind of information we want to get. And on our website, there is a client info form that you can fill out that takes like 3 minutes to do. And it just gives us basic information. And that's really the best way to contact our office, is to do it through the website. And can I give the website really quick?
Oh, sure.
www.nextsteps, STEPS, the number 4, seniors with an S.com. So Next Steps for Seniors. So steps and seniors is plural. So anyway, on that website, you fill out the basic information. Someone from our office will contact you and get some more detailed information. But our goal is to understand the care that the elderly person needs. Our goal is to understand what the budget is. How much money do we have to work with on a monthly basis? And what's the most important as far as location? Who is the most active in that person's life? Because you really want to be close to family. You know, everyone thinks I want to be close to my church or, you know, my friends, but you want to be close to family because when the rubber hits the road, who you really want to see is your son or your daughter.
Yes,
you know?
We did the same thing for my mother before she passed, and the big thing was geography. Keep her close so we can visit most
The more
often.
often, the
And
better.
Of course, if we came in every day, she'd still say, "Where have you been?
Where have you been?
Yeah.
I haven't seen you."
Yes, really.
I know. So we really try to narrow in the focus. So once we hear all the information from our client, we, in our database and in our system, we go through all the hundreds and hundreds of places that we know of, and we say, okay, what meets their criteria? What meets their budget? What meets their location? What meets their care level? These things are all critical. And then we give you the option. We say, okay, here's some options. And usually we give you 3 options because our goal is not to confuse you, but to simplify it. You don't want to look at 25 different places, nor do you have the time, you know. But we can narrow it down for you, and you can take those options. And if you don't like those options, we can come up with more. But the goal is to narrow down the process and simplify it
Right.
for our clients.
Yes, as we were talking earlier before the show, procrastination is the bane of adult care. I know that my business is very busy right now, but unfortunately a lot of it's because of crisis planning for people that haven't
crisis.
done anything yet. So if we can get the families to get a little initiative, a lot of times if they get an idea that they should be planning,
Right.
there's no charge for a lot of the things that they need to find out to begin with.
Exactly.
Otherwise, they might think they know something, or somebody's Uncle Harry down the road knows something that they experienced. But each case is so different.
It's so different. It's so different. And that's so near and dear to my heart, too, because my goal really is to help people plan and prepare for life before tragic happens. We don't need tragedies and then reactions. We need to know what we're going to do before anything happens.
Exactly.
And I agree with you. It's procrastination. Nobody wants to deal with it. We all get old. We all age. This is part of the, this is how the world goes round. And someday we are all going to die.
Yeah.
It's going to happen. So why not plan for it?
All you got to do is plan. So
Exactly.
it just makes sense. But now, when you talk about expanding knowledge, you also do a radio show, right?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
I do.
Tell me a little bit, because you bring in a lot of people that are concerned about seniors and even beyond that. So
Yes.
go ahead and talk about it.
It's a similar concept. The goal is, first of all, it's WDTK, and it's 92.7 FM or 1400 AM. It's the same program ran on both stations. And it's on Sundays at 10 a.m. And the goal, it's called Next Steps for Seniors, the program.
Okay.
No pun on words, right? So the goal of the program is to bring in special guests that know the industry or the area that we're talking about. For example, we had someone that talked about Medicare. It's so confusing when to sign up, how to change your benefits, what plan to get on. So we had an expert on the program that talked all about Medicare and just gave our listeners information. And it was very good stuff I've never even heard of before. So if you're turning 65, you want to hear that program because it's very informational. So the goal is to have different guests on the program each week to share information with the listeners so they can be prepared in advance, really.
Yeah.
So
who else have
it's
you
fun.
had on the show? You had Medicare?
I've had attorneys, I've had Medicare, I've had different communities talking about the different options. I've had a nursing home talking about the benefits and what they do in nursing homes. Rehab facilities have been on the program, private duty home care companies. Lots of people that you just need to know this information. I had Area Agency on Aging. They talked about the Silver Key Coalition that's going on right now, which is huge in the state of Michigan, that people just are not aware of. So I've had a lot of good experts that I've really enjoyed learning from them. We had a gentleman on that actually goes to people's houses, the seniors, and does physical exercise with them in the home. He has seen people who could not walk. And that's what, instead of going to work out at, all these different fitness places, you bring him into your home and he works with the seniors. I think that was this guy was amazing. He talked about nutrition and health and wellness and physical fitness, and it was brilliant. So these are the different programs that are available on the show. And we do have podcasts. So if anyone missed one of the programs and they'd like to hear it, you can go online. It's www.newstalk, NEWSTALK, 1400.us. And you can go to local podcasts and hear them.
Right.
Yeah, it's good information.
You mentioned the Area Agency on Aging. I think that's like an unfound gem that people should know about, but nobody knows anything about. They're the clearinghouse for a lot of these senior programs. And of course, people always forget that their county offices have information for seniors, and they forget about calling them.
And the senior centers are amazing. They have so many resources. These senior centers, look up your local. I had a lady from the OPC on the program, for example, and she talked all about senior centers in general. And there are so many services that are available through senior centers that people just don't take advantage of.
Right. I know our senior center here in Shelby is very dynamic.
It's great.
Yes. a good involvement for seniors here in our community. The OPC in the Rochester area, they're all good.
Not far, it's your neighbor.
Well, you bring a lot of energy, and I know that you impart that in your radio show, so I would tell people to try and listen to it. Sunday
Thank you.
mornings at 10 a.m.
10 a.m., 92.7 FM.
Okay, and we'll have the graphic up of your company and phone number and contact information.
Thank you, Doug.
So I'm really glad to have you here. And really, people, if you need information, feel free to call Wendy or my company. There are no obligations when you call. We can answer questions, or we can have you in if you need. But please don't procrastinate. All right. So for Wendy and myself, this is Doug Wozniak. This has been a Senior Moment.